Hey everyone, welcome to the official page, the official channel. This is Storm to let you guys know what's happening behind the scenes and what's really happening. So I've been telling you, I was one of the first persons to give you the inside drops of what was really happening behind the scenes. That military operations have been happening behind the scenes since, say, 2012. It was ignited, but it really all came into creation after the assassination of JFK. This is the reason why they don't want the documents released, because it's going to show a lot of corruption that's connected through the whole world, from the drug trade that's over in the Golden Triangle over in Asia, how the Vatican was a part of this huge operation funding it with the Jesuits, and then people from the UK banks, and they were also operating through China over in Hong Kong. Hong Kong's a huge, massive base for the CIA operations with MI6, with the UK banking systems, and they were running heroin. And so they were doing this for a long time, and there's a lot of corruption that's connected over to the Vietnam War. The whole reason for the Vietnam War was to take over the drug trade, the heroin, the opium, and then this all connects to, the whole world, the pharmaceutical industry also, but also to the drug trade that's connected through the whole world. And the money, the operations were running through the Vatican. So these are important operations. As you know, there's Operation Gladio that was also happening down in Italy. This is where the CIA financed the Italian mafia to take over the government positions. They were a dying breed at one time, but once the CIA got down there, the OSS became the CIA, and they came into power with the Vatican, and they took over the regions, and then they gave power back to the mafia. And that's how the mafia, through Operation Gladio, they took over the governments, took over government cities, and they had a lot of leaders placed into position. So the war that we're seeing right now is an extension of all of these huge wars, out of all these past wars, the drug trade systems, how the CIA was created, how the United Nations is all part of this. And it's a huge, massive corruption that's connected to the JFK assassination, but it's all connected also over to deep, dark operations that's happening. These are unconstitutional funding that the United States taxpayers are paying, that Congress doesn't know about. Even the United States presidents don't know about these deep, dark operations that are funded by Raytheon and all of these military industrial complex systems. So that's why they don't want the CIA exposure to happen, because it connects to the world corruption system of the deep state, which is all connected to the cabal. So this connects to 9/11, and also connects to the internet, of why the Great Awakening is happening, and how all these military operations came together. So after the JFK assassination, it was still really difficult to move information at a high speed. It was really hard to get a global alliance together, and a lot of spies were killing each other. Spies, a lot of these intel operations were killing each other. So a lot of people were captured trying to create an alliance. There was a lot of people that were killed and captured that were talking about the pedophilia, that were talking about all of these pedo stuff, and then also the corruption, the blackmail operations. But when the internet was created, it was one of the first times in world history that people could move information at high speed, and this allowed for the White Hats military to move operations, to connect with each other, to have kill switch operations, certain places where information was stored. They could send it in an instant. People could look at these messages, look at it, and then erase the messages. There was a lot of these kill switch operations all over the United States, a lot of databases where information was secretly stored so people could look at it really quick. And this is how an alliance grew after 9/11 happened. And then the White Hats got really angry. It's connected to a lot of generals that you don't really know a lot of these generals, but it's also connected to General Flynn. It's connected to the people who created the United States Space Force. And this is the Air Force. And there's a lot of admirals, generals. That is all connected to moving the internet and then using the internet to move intelligence at a high speed of rate. And this was creating an alliance inside of the military commands of the United States. Now people could talk much more fast in real time for the first time without being captured as spies, moving information single-handedly back in the 1950s and 60s. Now everything could be sent really quick, picked up, but also the black hats, the cabal, the deep state, were capturing information, what was going on. So they created this 9/11 event for several reasons, but one of the big reasons was to create the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act, this was the Patriot Act was actually a really bad move because that allowed for the CIA, the Pentagon, to install images of pedo stuff, corruption, these fake reports inside of military commands' computer, leaders inside the United States, politicians. They were putting a lot of stuff of these fake pedo stuff and then fake financial, saying that they were stealing money, they were part of blackmail operations. They were installing a lot of corruption, fake corruption that was being found inside of people inside of Congress, inside of military, inside of CEOs, and all these different people in the United States, because they were really afraid that the real truth was that the Project Bluebeam was being exposed, and this information already had been leaking out since the 70s. And in the 80s, it started to move through military commands that deep inside there was a deep state military that wanted to initiate this Project Bluebeam. So a lot of this was beginning to move so that they want to create the Patriot Act because they want to capture all the information of who was moving the information, who are the white hats, who are the black hats, who are the spies in between, the moles, the double agents, triple agents, the gray hats, who's in between on which side they're on. So the Patriot Act allowed the CIA, Pentagon, and a lot of these three-letter agencies to start searching for people. And then the people who were exposing that were coming together in alliance, it began to pick them apart and they put them into databases. So that 9/11 was a financial, it was a way to steal a lot of money. It was a way to cover up a huge, there was a huge operation that was going on with human trafficking that was connected to the Twin Towers, to the financial systems. And everything was on the inside, and people were already tapping into that, getting the information, the white hats. So the Twin Towers had to come down for several reasons. It has to go to insurance, it has to go to Pentagon. CIA was stealing money to create the war over in Iraq. But then the whole thing was also a mole hunt. They were hunting the white hats. So that's what 9/11 was really about, was that Patriot Act. They were trying to silence the people who knew about Project Bluebeam, the people who knew about the COVID, the coming pandemics, and they were hunting all these people to silence them, to put these images, pedo images, child human trafficking, sex images, all of these things that people can be blackmailed for, you can go to prison for. They were using the Patriot Act not to get the information, but also to install information that was bad into military commands, computers, and stuff like that. And once they did that, and then they began to flip them over into the dark side. They say, if you don't work for us, you're going to go to prison. We're going to take all your money. Your family's not going to have any money. We're going to break your whole legacy apart of who you are. So they said that to congressmen, to senators, and everybody was scared, and everybody was corrupt, and everybody was really, really afraid. So that's why Wesley Clark, the general, came out, and he gave a small exposure. He was given exposure, but he was leaking the information to public that, that the United States was planning to invade Iran already, planning to invade Iraq and several countries and to bring them under control. But the reason why he did that, he was giving military communications. He was dropping this information in live time. And when he was dropping these communications, there's a certain day that everything was sent out to a lot of military commanders that Wesley Clark, he gave a kill switch in the backgrounds, in the backgrounds behind the scenes on the internet, that on this day there was a lot of information that was sent out through the internet to a lot of different commanders, admirals, colonels, and they all got to look at the sources. And these sources had the whole operations of the pedophile operations, the worldwide corruption operations. It had everything that was connected to the world drug trade, the bankings, and then it had the real videos of what was happening in live time to these children, and then all the corrupt leaders, world leaders that were all involved in part of this. So a lot of these military got to see it, and that was the first time a lot of military, they switched over to the white hat side, and then a war began behind the scenes inside the internet. A huge war began to erupt inside of the military, became divided in a huge not open, but inside a closed arena. And there was a mole hunt began, the Patriot Act. There's actually a lot of software that was hunting a lot of these moles through the Patriot Act and what they were using this for. And this is a huge story connected to NSA. It connects over to Snowden programs that he creates on later. But there's a lot of programs that were already created back in the 90s. The octopus, there's a lot of things that they were capturing that later turns into hunting, the military hunting U.S. Congress senators that were against pedophile, that was against the corruption, the exposure of the Republicans, Democrats, that was part of this huge, gigantic cabal system that was working with Israel, working with the Vatican, working with the CIA, working with the world drug trade operations, and then the military-industrial complex of funding all of these wars. So what we're seeing now, I've been telling you, I've been giving you the inside drops for a long time. Now I've been telling you since 2020, I told everyone that the war's coming. We're going to go into a near world war event, near nuclear war event. Now we're here at these stages. And then I got to tell you that, even back then I told you Musk was really important, even though he was voting for Biden, even though he was supporting the Democratic Party, that this was just all, it was a setup of what Musk was really doing, what the military was really doing to capture Twitter, to capture all the Twitter servers through the whole world, with all the governments talking on inside of Twitter, moving information, but also capturing Twitter to use it almost like a broadcast system to expose all of these things that's happening, and it's connected to the Great Awakening. So I had given all the drops and all the wires that Musk was going to buy Twitter, and Musk was going to flip, and behind the scenes, Musk is actually working with the United States Space Force, and he's actually a commander, and he was positioned by Trump. But behind the scenes, Musk has a little more classified clearance than what Trump has. There's some things that Trump can't have, because later on, when there's military tribunals that goes on, there's some information that Trump isn't allowed to have. It's for certain reason. It's for his safety. It's for a lot of reasons that's connected to tribunals. But he's highly intelligent. He knows what's happening. He has a lot of sources that give him the information that's already the highly classified stuff, from Rogers and all of these different people, different admirals. They give him all the information. So what we're looking at now is 11.3, the laws of war. We're coming into this. And that's why I began to create this channel now, because it takes too long to write this information, to bring it out. And I want to bring it out in a certain way where you get to hear this, what's really happening behind the scenes. Now, as you know, that everybody was making fun of 17 operations. Everybody was making fun of all these operations for a while. And they were saying that, it's just conspiracy. But the investigation stopped because they got really scared who was actually running the operations of the 17 operations and who was really involved inside of it. So they pinned it on an HBO special. You know how that went. They pinned it on on Watkins. They pinned it on him and his father, that they were the people behind the scenes. And they had tricked, somehow they managed to trick General Flynn. But General Flynn is inside massive intelligence. He knows what's really happening. So anyways, now you get to kind of see they're not laughing anymore at the storm. They're actually afraid. Nobody's joking anymore about the storm operations, the arrest wars. They were joking for the past 4 years that they're talking about the storm and they made it a joke. But now it's not a joke no more. Now they're in full panic as you hear generals from the deep state being arrested. They're in fear. A lot of people inside of Congress, the Senate, are talking about that Trump is going to arrest everyone from Hillary Clinton. Everyone is in fear. So it's no longer a joke. And there's so much panic inside of what's happening that the Democratic Party are now trying to initiate the military. They're trying to get the deep state military behind them. They're trying to move certain laws inside of Congress. They're trying to create civil war. That way they can initiate the military and go after Trump. And they're trying to arrest the Republican parties. And they're initiating martial law. This is what they want to initiate and to use the military, because they're trying to counter the 11.3 military law that Trump and the military is going to initiate. But behind the scenes, it's a lot more difficult to explain what really happened. That Trump already had given power to the military back in 2017. And what you've been watching is what's called the devolution plan. The military already has the power. Trump already signed executive orders, and then he signed presidential orders that are hidden. And then there's military orders behind it that are also secreted and hidden, that they're already running operations like a continuity of government. They're controlling the top heads. They're also controlling the top forces inside the military. So this is what they're really doing. That's why I had already given you all the information that Trump lost the election on purpose. It wasn't a loss, and it wasn't a stolen election. It was given on purpose to Biden. Once it was given on to Biden, and then Biden was forced to play a puppet by both the black hats and the white hats. Once he was forced to make all of these decisions, and then a collapse happened. Everything had to happen underneath Biden. A world collapse, a massive collapse that started going towards war. The collapse of the banking institutions, the financial institutions. Everything began to collapse under Biden, and Trump couldn't be seen in this time that he was a part of it. That's why he was removed. But these are military operations that was already happening even before Trump was elected, even when Trump was elected, and after Trump, to Biden. These are military operations that's really happening behind the scenes. So you have a lot of scholars out there. Some of these young kids, the top debaters, like Ben Shapiro, and then you have the top kids from the top people, people that graduated from Harvard, from different places. These people debate. They talk about the government, how to fix it, how to reform it, how to fix stuff, who's right, who's wrong. And they use all the facts, everything that they debate on, whether you see it on television, on news, or all of these people inside of Congress and different places, whether you see the smartest people, like I said, Ben Shapiro, or else all of these kids that are fighting for the Democratic Party, talking about debating, discussion, how to fix the world, whose fault it is, and, all of this stuff that relies only on evidence that they can see, evidence that they can hear from somebody else who is a higher official who has showed them the evidence, the paperwork, the data. So that's called selective intelligence, when you can only, it's only when you can have the evidence, the proper paperwork, you have all the receipts in front of you to make a decision. So a lot of these kids that come out of universities, they make decisions. They talk about the stuff that they learned there, the stuff that they have been indoctrinated into, brainwashed, whether they went to a place where it's more conservative or a place that's more democratic. So they get all the information and they have all the paperwork. But this selective intelligence that these humans have on TV, like I said, Ben Shapiro, and whether it's good or bad people that have selective, like Alex Jones, a lot of these things, he only has selective intelligence. They don't understand that the military behind the scenes, there's a war going on because they don't have the data. They don't have the proof in front of them to make a decision, so they think it's conspiracy. So that's why people always think like the number 17 is a conspiracy. There's military operations happen behind the scenes. It's all conspiracy because they don't have the data. There's nobody telling them. They don't have the proof. They have nothing. So their mind shuts down because they have been brainwashed their whole life only to see evidence, to see the source of where that source is coming from. And that's how humans are controlled, because high intelligence corporations, companies, governments, they know that humans are easily controlled through selective intelligence. So what we are here inside the Great Awakening, it's not about selective intelligence. It's about giving you information that you can see that begins to evolve. So here I'm giving you information that keeps on happening, and it keeps on happening to, the future is proving the past of a lot of things that I told you, that Musk was going to join Trump and unite with Trump, that they're going to create a massive, gigantic financial system that's going to change the whole world. And I've been telling you that behind the scenes, Trump is working with Mohammed bin Salman. This is from Saudi Arabia. That's why he's kind of holding off on joining BRICS. He's waiting for Trump and he's waiting for Musk. He's going to be a large key in the future role of creating peace in the Middle East, and then working with Trump, then working with Musk, and then working with India, working with China, bringing things back into a strong perspective. And then also at the same time, there's a lot of work that's happening between the countries, that I've been telling you about, like who's inside this military alliance. And it's a lot of people that's connected over to Russia and to China, because China wants to fight for their freedom. Xi Jinping is actually going to destroy China, and he wants to destroy the CCP, because I told you about all the drug trade, the weapon trade, the heroin trade, that was controlling China. And that's why Hong Kong has their own money. They have their own financial system that isn't a part of China, because the CIA, MI6, the Vaticans, the Rothschilds controls that corruption, and the corruption from Hong Kong is controlling different provinces through China. And the CCP, that's how they created the CCP. Not create them, but how they control the CCP. And Xi is playing a special part that he's going to collapse himself and he's going to collapse the CCP. So you're watching these moments that are very vital that's happening as the Democrats are trying to initiate martial law, which is actually going to come into the real military coup of what's happening. The near civil war event that's going to shake the United States with all the cyber attacks. I had warned everybody before anybody was talking about this, that these events were going to happen, that we're going into war. People thought it was conspiracy when I said that we're going to go to war with Russia, that a lot of these things were going to happen. The huge war was going to kick off in the Middle East, going towards nuclear war events and all of this stuff. But it's controlled. These events have to happen. It's going to wake up the whole world, and a lot of stuff is going to happen to the financial banking system, cyber attacks, blackouts, and then it's going to ripple effect from the United States. It's going to ripple effect into Europe. Then it's going to hit Canada. It's going to hit the UK, the financial systems, and it's going to happen really quick. But everything will restabilize in 2025 after Trump takes his place back. And then he's going to correct everything really quick. But at the same time, all of the stuff, the pedo stuff that's really happening, the whole corruption is going to keep on building. And that Epstein isn't done talking yet. Epstein's going to talk. There are people that's telling you he's going to talk, because there's over 100 terabytes that's been captured by the military on what Epstein was doing. You know, even McAfee already had all of this information. The military already has all of this information and they're holding it. And not only that, but WikiLeaks, behind the scenes, WikiLeaks was actually military intelligence. It's not just one man called Julian Assange that's pulling the strings. It's just not one person, Donald Trump. The people in the world think that Donald Trump is fighting the whole CIA, the whole FBI. He's fighting the whole, the NATO. He's fighting this whole, just one man, and they think it's just one man. And it's not one man that's doing this. It's the military that's behind them. They placed Trump. Now, all of these things that are happening are all happening inside events and inside stages. So we're in this vital moment of the military operations going overt from the deep state military. They're going to go into overt operations. This is where you can actually see that they're trying to create martial law. At the same time, the other side, the white hats, the military, are going to go overt now. This is where you'll begin to see, this is where you're going to see the military speak for the first time on what's happening. There's going to be a huge confusion, but this is going to lead to 11.3 laws of war, military protocols. And this is leading to the arrest wars. And this is going to lead to something that humans can't fathom. That's the reason why Trump was wearing black, he was wearing white, he was wearing gold. These are the colors of the army. These are the colors of the military that he's telling you. But also that black, it represents the darkness that we're in. Then that light, that color white is the light color. And then after that, it's the golden era. So we're in this dark moment, the darkest part of the storm that's coming. And you can see the light, So it's always darkness before the light. And then that light comes and we're going to hit that golden stage. So there's huge, gigantic operations. And this all connects to other operations that I'll tell you about. I'll tell you what really happened with Snowden. Snowden was actually given over to Russia for a certain reason. He was actually given. At any moment when Snowden went to Hong Kong, Snowden would have been found. That's one of the biggest CIA hubs, MI6 hotbeds in the world. There was no way that Snowden would have went to Hong Kong. All of this stuff that you see in the movies from Netflix, from Snowden, all of these stories of how they were chasing him and all of this stuff, that's all false information. That's disinformation. He was intentionally given to Putin for a certain reason, because Snowden has a lot of information. You ever see that TV show, Sheldon Cooper, with the Big Bang Theory? Or else really, really super intelligent humans who have photographic memory, eidetic memories. He has an eidetic memory that can remember codes, knows everything. He doesn't need computers. And this was a reason. But this is all going to connect over to supercomputers, quantum computers, and then it's going to connect over to the MH370, what was really on the flights. It's going to connect to all of these operations that were initiated. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes that help initiate all of these military operations from inside the NSA, from inside of Hawaii to different places. And we're going to keep on coming back to Admiral Rogers. We're going to keep on coming back to a lot of these generals that you never heard of, and what's really happening behind the scenes that's setting the stage. You're seeing a stage being set that's going to expose the most advanced technology the world has ever seen. That's going to change the whole society of how we drive, of how we live, because you have $1 trillion institution that is through oil and through gas. You know, the way we drive on highways, the way airplanes fly, the way we live, everything's going to change. There's a massive, gigantic plan that's going to collapse the way we live. And this is connected to infinite energy, to Tesla energy. This is connected, it's connected to the highest levels of intelligence. And this is, it's really important. Later on, you get to understand how this is all connected to a spiritual war, how it's connected to super intelligence that peoples can't really understand, but how we all have to go through this in a certain way, these events, because humans only have a selective intelligence, something that they can only see, something that they can only study, believe in, the way they're indoctrinated into their systems, whether it's democratic or whether they're atheists or whether they're Republicans. Everybody's going to start to unite, and there are events that's coming, that's going to happen. In a way, the white hats are going to let the Project Bluebeam happen, because this is going to kick off events that's going to happen for 2027, 2028, and the exposure of super advanced technology into microchips. And these room temperature microchips that don't burn or they don't freeze. It's really advanced technology that I don't want to speak about, and I'll save that for the next videos that's coming in. So I just want to let you guys know right now, prepare, get your food, get your stuff. That's why I wanted to talk, and I want to get you guys into this podcast. And then also thank you, for following me for the years. Now I'm going to start giving a lot of information here on this channel. So there are people working behind the scenes, but be careful out there. Be very careful out there. And I'll catch you guys on the next video.